For this project, you're gonna need a yard of knit fabric, rotary cutter, scissors, fabric chalk or fabric marker, needle and thread, handful of pearls, and a basic t-shirt pattern. The one I'm using is the Lowland Kids basic t-shirt, and then ruffle pattern if you want to add ruffles. Alright, let's start by cutting out our fabric pieces. You're going to want to make sure that you cut your fabric in the direction of this stretch. So for example, this fabric stretches both ways. So I'm choosing to cut it with the stripes pointing to me this way. But it's always a good idea to write on your patterns which way the fabric should stretch, so that way you don't end up with a shirt that doesn't stretch the way it's supposed to. Now you should have all your fabric pieces cut out. You're going to have 2 sleeves. Where's my other sleeve? Oh, okay. 2 sleeves. You're going to have 4 ruffles cut out. Now the reason why I have 4 instead of 2, I don't really like the way it looks when you just hem the outside of the ruffle. I like it when you double up on it, and it just makes the rufflers look a lot more fuller. So you're going to need 4 pieces. If you don't want to do that, you can just do 2. You're going to have the front of your shirt, neckband, and back of your shirt. Since I didn't have that much fabric left over, I decided I was going to add a bow to the shirt. And then this piece was basically the only thing I had left over from the fabric, which is 17 by 17. Depending on how big you want to add it to the shirt, just, you know, make a perfect square out of your fabric, and then we'll get to the details on how the bow is made. Now we just assemble our shirt. So we're gonna take our front of the shirt and back of the shirt. You're gonna lay them flat and then pin them right sides together. Now usually I don't pin it when it's shirts because it's fairly easy to find where you gotta sew, but because this fabric rolls a little bit, I'm gonna go ahead and pin it. But we're gonna start off by pinning and sewing the shoulder seams. And if you're using a serger, serge right here. If not, with a sewing machine, use a zigzag stitch and trim the remaining fabric. So we're just gonna pin and pin. All right, so take that over to your serger or sewing machine and get this sewn up. All right, now that we got our shirt sewn at the shoulder seams, we're gonna put this to the side, and then we are going to work on the ruffles. If you decided to only cut 2 of the ruffles, right now is when you would hem the outside of where your ruffles is, a little bit inside like that. And if you decided to do it my way with the 4, we're gonna go ahead and pin and sew all around the edge of the ruffle, not the flat side, but the side that is curved. And we're gonna do that to both sets. Do not sew this down. This is going to stay open, so just around all right here. So let's pin it and get it all sewn up. All right, now that you have all your ruffles pinned, we're going to go ahead and you can either serge the ends or go ahead and sew with a straight stitch. No need to trim the ends because they will not be visible. All right, now that you guys got your ruffles all sewn up, you're going to flip inside out and place them wrong sides together. And then you're going to pin along the raw edge. Now it's time to sew up the ruffles. If you want your machine to ruffle up as you go so you don't have to gather as much after you do your gathering stitches, what I like to do is set my tension to the highest one it goes, which is usually a 9 on most machines. Needle position does not change, stays in the middle. The width also changes to the highest it goes, as well as the length to 4, to the highest that it goes on your machine. And then we're gonna do a straight stitch just as normal, and then you guys will see how the machine starts gathering the stitches for you. So when you do have to stretch out your gather stitches, you don't have to stretch them out as much because the machine will do most of the gathering for you. And it also depends on the fabric that you use. The lighter fabrics, they gather much faster than thicker fabrics. So as always, when gathering stitches, make sure you leave a good amount of thread tail out. In case you do need to gather more, you have enough thread to go with. Do not backstitch. So here it is. My ruffles are semi-gathered. I am gonna have to pull them a little bit more, but just not as much because it already gathered them for me. Now, if I had only used one piece of fabric instead of 2, it would have probably gathered them a whole lot more, just because with lighter fabrics, it gathers a lot. So let's go ahead and gather the other one so we can put it on our shirt. All right, now that we have our semi-gathered ruffles, what we're gonna do is we're going to tie the thread on one end while we gather the other one. Now when you're gathering, I don't think I explained this in the last video, you're only holding on to one thread. So this one's they're not separated yet. Okay, so this one's better. You're either going to hold on, you're going to separate your thread, your back and front thread, and you're only going to hold on to one. So I like to hold on to my front thread instead of the back one. And then you pull only the front thread as you gather, like that. See? Because if you pull both of them, you're just going to rip your stitches. So you only pull one, and then make sure that your other end is tied up so your gathers don't loosen up. All right. So now you're going to gather it as much as possible to fit perfectly inside your armhole shirt. So I'm going to have to gather mine just a little bit more to fit perfectly with my armhole. Now that you got your ruffles to fit perfectly around your armhole, you're going to go ahead and pin or clip in place, and we're going to do a set of basting stitches. And what essentially that means is you're just going to go with a straight stitch at the very, very, very top of this, just to hold these two pieces together. So when we're adding our arm, We're not gonna miss like any stitches or any of that. And then it'll just be flawlessly on, because if you try to stitch all 3 layers at once, you're bound to make a mistake or not get the ruffles fully stitched into the armhole. So we'll just pin and then just a straight stitch all at the top here. All right, now before we attach our sleeve, we're gonna go ahead and hem it, just because it's going to be a lot easier to hem it now than when it's already on the shirt. So what I like about Lowland Kids simple shirt pattern, when you cut out the pattern, it has like this triangle thing right here, but when you fold it up, it calls for the perfect hem. So straight stitch it with your sewing machine or hem it with your cover stitch machine, whatever is easier for you. But let's get the bottom hemmed before we attach it onto the shirt. All right, now that we got our sleeve hemmed, we're gonna go ahead and attach it to our armhole. You're going to fold your sleeve in half and then pin where the half point is, and then do the same with the shirt and pin where the half point is. Then you're going to pin those 2 in place like this. And then you're going to, this is a little awkward sometimes, to find and kind of maneuver around the fabric so it matches up perfectly with the curve. I like to start off by pinning the ends, like the corners right here, and then pinning as I go all around to match up with the rest of the sleeve. And then you're going to go ahead and you do a zigzag stitch if you're using a sewing machine, and trim the ends, or with your serger, serge and close it. All right, so see, now it's a little bit easier. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and pin the rest of the way, all the way around. And then you're gonna repeat the exact same steps we just did right now on the other side of the arms with the ruffles and the basting stitches, and then pinning in place your sleeve. But don't forget to hem your sleeve before it goes on. You can still do it afterwards, it's just not as easy. It gets a little harder. And then make sure that you don't accidentally fold the fabric. So like right now I had the fabric a little bit folded upwards, so I went back to press it down and then repin it. All right. Perfect. Now, with whichever side you want to start, either this one or this one, we're going to take it to the sewing machine and zigzag stitch or use your serger. Alright, so now that you got it all sewn up, when you turn it inside out, this is what it's going to look like once we go ahead and attach the shirt together. But we're not going to do that just yet, because now we have to repeat on the opposite side, and then we'll go ahead and keep finishing up the shirt. Alright, now that we have both of our sleeves sewn on and both of our ruffles sewn on, we're going to move on to doing the collar. Usually this is the last step I do, but because of the design and style of the shirt, we're going to put on the collar right now. And we're not going to sew on the sides yet, and I'll show you guys why. Once we start putting the design together, it'll just be easier, so you can top stitch around the part you're going to have to cut out, because once the shirt is sewn up, it's just going to be nearly impossible to get that done. Alright, so for the collar, all we're going to do is sew right here, zigzag stitch or serger, and then once it's sewn, we're going to flip in half like that, just like we did the cuffs in the other video. If you want to get your neck pinned in force before we start sewing, that is also an amazing idea. Right away you already know that your 2 shoulder seams, those are 2 of your corners. You can still put a pin. Usually I don't put a pin just because this is already a marker for me to know that this is a corner, my shoulder seams. So to find my other 2 corners, I just join the shoulder seams, and whatever folds this way right here is what we pin. And then we fold it out right here. And the front is going to be a little bit longer than the back. That's fine. We just want to make sure that we are pinning in 4. All right. So then this is my other corner. And I got both my corners pinned out of the way. So I can go ahead and make my neck collar. You can also do binding. I don't do binding. I hate binding. I've tried binding and it is not my friend. So if you're a beginner, definitely recommend to just do a cuff look alike for a collar. All right, so right sides together and take it to your sewing machine and sew down here and then flip and pin into 4s. All right, we are back. My neck bind is all sewn up. I got it pinned into 4s. Now, right here where the stitches meet, this is usually the part where I would pin it to the very back, so I know the back of my shirt. But because this shirt is gonna have a design, I know what part is gonna be my back of the shirt. So I'm going to hide these stitches and blend them in with these other stitches. So I'm just gonna start by pinning my neckband right here where the side shoulder seams meet these other stitches, like that. So now that we got our neckband on, see, it looks all nice and pretty there. Now we're gonna top stitch it around the top. The way we're gonna do that is run the other side where your stitches are at right there. You're gonna go into a straight line right in the middle of your stitches and just go through them. The easiest way to do this is to turn your shirt inside out and then get it propped onto your sewing machine. And then make sure you fold down your neckband all the way. You don't want to accidentally stitch it. So let's put it onto our sewing machine like that. Start at a shoulder seam so you can back stitch. And then just let me try to zoom in. Right in the middle, right there, where my stitches are at, that's where I'm gonna sew my straight line. All right here through where my stitches are at, right there. So we're gonna start at the shoulder seam, do a little bit of back stitching. So just a little bit. All right. And now we're gonna go ahead and just stitch right in the middle and go slowly so you can have a straight line. You can use a double needle for more of a professional look, but if not, a single needle is just fine. And then we're just gonna do that all around, right in the middle of your stitches that you just did. Alright guys, so now you're going to get your ruler, measuring tape, or even just a little piece of paper that's going to help you measure evenly all around the front part of the shirt. We're not doing the back yet, just the front right now. So I'm going to do it with the ruler, and I'm going to be measuring around the neck about 1/2 inch. Get your fabric marker or fabric chalk or anything that will be washable and will not leave any stains on the shirt to help you with this. Alright. So right where your lining is at, where you just top stitched it, or if you didn't top stitch it, right where the band ends, we're gonna put our ruler there and then measure 1/2 inch. And just put a little dot, a little marker. We'll come back and connect the dots and keep going around throughout the shirt and keep measuring 1/2 inch down. to get our backside done, we're going to have to fold the shirt perfectly in half. So take your shirt, line up your shoulder seams over here to match with one another, like that, perfectly. So the neckband matches perfectly. There we go. So see, these two shoulder seams are matching. I folded my shirt just like this, you know. Good, good, good. Alright, so now my fabric is perfectly folded. It's curling a little bit right here, but you know, I'm still getting a perfect fold. Alright. Make sure you press down a little bit with your hands. Press it with the iron if you can, if you want, to make it easier, because we need to make a crease right here. So we're gonna open up our shirt back up, and you can slightly tell the crease right here. Now, depending how low you want your crease to go is where you're gonna put your dot, basically. I don't want it to go too low, so I'm only gonna go up to about, let's see, about 3.5 inches off of where my top stitching line is. So just a little dot right there, and perfect. All right, now try to lay your fabric flat as possible again, and then take your ruler or a flat piece of paper, anything straight that will help you connect the dots. So we're gonna go to our shoulder seam where we ended our other line, line it up with the dot that we just made, and we're going to connect the dots. Now my fabric's a little lumpy, it's not laying flat perfectly, so just take your time, do little dots instead if you want, instead of this. There you go. As long as you can see where you're cutting, that's the main goal. And then we're gonna do our other side. Same thing. Line up your dot to where you last drew your line, and just do dash lines or a full line, dots, whatever is easier for you, as long as you have where you're gonna cut. Perfect. So now we have it all there. This is the part we're gonna be cutting out of our shirt. I know it sounds scary, but trust me, it'll come out beautiful. So what I like to do to get a perfect line, I like to start over here with my back shirt, and right here I just cut it a little bit with the rotary blade, just so I can get like an in to cut the rest out with my scissors. I don't like to cut the rest of it with the rotary blade, just because there's this lumps and stuff, and you don't want it to come out crooked or lumpy or anything. You just want it to come out as straight as possible. So let's cut a little bit with the rotary blade just to have an opening for the scissors, and then we just follow our tracings. That was a little scary because we just did all that work and we just cut out a perfectly hole into our shirt. Alright, so we're going to start with the collar. All we're going to do is top stitch it around the top like this. Just fold it in like a little bit, not too much, all the way around the top so we don't leave any raw edges, and then all around. So take that over to your sewing machine, and with a straight stitch, just tuck in the edges, you know, so we don't have any raw edges, nothing like that. And then we're gonna set that to the side, and then we're gonna do the same with the rest of our shirt. Now that we got our shirt hemmed and our collar hemmed, I went ahead and also pressed it so, you know, I can kind of see what I'm doing a little bit better. So we're gonna put the collar to the side and we're gonna work on the finish up the shirt so we can be the last part to do, just to be adding the pearls. All right, so we're gonna sew up the sides, right sides together. If your fabric rolls a little bit like mine, just pin it all the way to the side, all where you're gonna be sewing. But most importantly, if you added ruffles like I did, be careful how you sew this. So make sure that the ruffles are tucked in here, and then the sleeve cuffs are out like this, because you're gonna sew the sleeves together with the shirt. And just line up the armpit seams right there, because those have to match perfectly, and then line up where the hemming meets right here, because they have to line up perfectly as well. And then go back and pin the rest of your shirt. Do it on the other side, and then we're going to be doing a zigzag stitch. If you're using a sewing machine, again, trim very close, and if you're using a serger, you just have to serge it all the way to the side. All right, now we got our beautiful shirt all sewn up. It looks amazing. I trimmed the edges. We're all done here. Now we just quick hem at the bottom, and then we can finally start on the pearls. All right, now we get to do the fun part. Add the dots where we're going to be adding our pearls. If you don't want to use pearls, you can use other beads. There's other like this, like circular longer beads that I had seen. That it's almost like little bars that go around it. I mean, whatever you find, whatever is your style, whatever goes with your shirt. But the process is still all the same. So let me get my needle and thread ready too as well. All right, just keep it handy. My pearls, I just put a little bit in this plate, but I have more. Depending on how many pearls we're gonna add, it might take a little bit more. All right, so what we're gonna be doing, we're gonna start with the V in the back, and we're going to be lining it up perfectly. I should have pressed that a little bit more. It doesn't want to stay. Okay. We're going to be lining it up perfectly of where it's going to go. And here, we're going to be adding dots where we're going to be adding those columns of pearls. So we have an even amount on each side, and they all fit perfectly. So the first one I'm going to start with is obviously the tip. Put a dot there and a dot there. Now, we can start adding the dots and then start sewing it as we go, so we know where to modify it. So I want to start with there, and then get your needle and your thread ready. I'm using the same thread that I used to stitch up my shirt. And let's now you are going to have to rethread your needle a lot. I don't like adding too much thread to it, because sometimes it just bunches up in the middle, and then you got like a random knot, and then it's not going through, and then you have to take out your stitches and rethread it. So although it is more tedious to keep rethreading your needle, it's less likely of a chance for you to mess up and have like a knot in the middle and then it's not going through. So it's just easier to rethread it every time. All right. So we're gonna make a nice little knot, not too big because we don't want it to be too bulky on the shirt. All right. And then trim off the excess very close to the knot. But be sure not to trim the knot so it doesn't come apart. And this is how we're essentially going to do this. I'm super excited. All right. So we're gonna put our needle through the back of our shirt, right here where the dot is. Pull it all the way through. And then I only want to do 2 pearls at a time. You can add more, make it longer. I just want to add 2. I don't want to have too much of a gap. And then for the top, you're not going to go under. You're going to go over, like right here, right where your dot is again. And slide it through. There we go. And then this is what you're gonna end up with, like this. So see, this is why, let me zoom it in. You do it under here first and then over here, because once you pull it and you tie the knot on the other end, let me do that. You see how it overlaps the bottom of the fabric a little bit, and it just leaves it with a nicer clean finish. So now that we have our 2 rows, I'm happy with just the 2 pearls. So I'm gonna go ahead and tie a knot behind this, and then move on to my next column, and so on and so on. Now, how does that just look so amazing? I'm finally finished with the back. We're gonna repeat the exact same process in the front. Start with the very middle of your front and then work your way up around the sides like I did, and then it'll just go so easily after that. We are officially all done. I finished. I hope you guys did too, and I can't wait to see how yours came out. So this is the front, and then this is the back. I think I love the back better. So now with that done, this step is again completely optional if you want to do it. If not, you know, you can go ahead and just finish up your shirt and be done. Let me put these pearls to the side. All right. If you don't, if you do want to add that extra step that I'm planning to do, actually, I don't even know if I'm going to do it. I'm just kind of looking to see how it looks just because I had this extra piece of fabric. So I'm just kind of making a bow a little sloppy here. What? Oh, okay. Here, let's put it around right here. Like this? Okay. My daughter's here helping me craft, and she's decorating my desk. Alright. So let me make just a sloppy bow really quick, just because I want to see how it would look if I should, you know, get it done, or if I should just forget about the bow. And I actually have a super cute headband to go with this. Okay. Oh, yes. I'm definitely going to be adding the bow. So this is where the bow will go. Right at the back of the t-shirt like that. Alright, so let me go ahead and get this out of the way to show you guys how to make the bow. Alright, to make the bow really quick, you're going to lay out your perfect square depending on how big you had it. I like to cut mine big because the way I fold my bows that go on clothes, it kind of makes it like a seamless edge, so you don't see any raw edges and I don't have to hem it or anything. It's just simple. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna fold down right here, and depending on how big you want the bow, you can just fold down a little bit. You don't have to fold down that much. So I'm just kind of folding down about 3 inches down, and then you're gonna repeat the same with the bottom fabric. And all right, this one I folded a little too much, a little over the 3 inches. Okay. All right. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna grab your fabric, fold it towards the middle like that, and then grab the other end, and oh, this fabric is rolling on me. Okay. And then fold it towards the middle and overlap it by a little bit, just a little bit. And then from there, I like to sew it down, just so I get a better grip on it and like it doesn't undo on me. And then once you have it sewn down, you'll just do the normal accordion fold. You can do big accordion folds or smaller for a more gathered look. I like doing small folds like that to get as many pleats as possible. And then there you go. And you got it. And then with some thread or string, just wrap it around the bow really tight. And then we're gonna get it sewn onto our shirt. Alright, I took it over to my sewing machine and I just sewed a straight stitch down the middle just to help it keep it together. You're gonna flip it to the side that doesn't have the folds on it. So this is the wrong side and this is the right side. And then you're just gonna start at the middle and create your pleats. So if you create really big pleats, you'll get like about 2 or so, and your bow will look something like this with bigger pleats. But I like doing very small pleats, so they're about the size of my thumb almost. There we go. Oh, it's okay. It gets a little tricky, but if you make bows, this part will be easy for you. I haven't made bows in a while. I kind of don't. My daughter doesn't really like them. Yeah? Wow. She doesn't really like bows, so I don't make too many of them anymore. Alright, so there. Comes nice and full. And then I have some thread right here. Okay, let's put it like this. Okay, perfect. Alright. So I have some thread right here, some thick string. Yes. Okay. And all you do is don't let go of your bow, just right here, press it down with your thumb, and then you're gonna wrap around your bow really tight like that. Really tight to hold it in place. That way when we sew it onto our shirt, it does not come apart. And then we'll put a center to it. It can be the same fabric, coordinating fabric that you're making of your shirt, whatever you want to do. And then you just do it really tight a few times, and then you can just cut. It won't come off because it's already tight, very tight. So this is the back and this is the front. This is another way you can also make bows when you don't have bullet fabric. I know when you usually use cotton lycra or double brush poly or any other kind of fabric to make bows, it starts riding up at the ends. So it does take a little bit more fabric to make the bow, but it still comes out pretty nice. So with my little scraps left over, I'm going to go ahead and create the center, just something simple, and then we'll sew it onto our shirt. We did it, guys. We did it. We finally finished. We did it. Yes, high five. We did it. If you guys got this far along with me and you guys went along with the tutorial, I would love to see how everything turned out and how it worked out for you guys. Tag at Peachy Sewing on Instagram and Facebook. I really want to see your creations. To sew on the bow, all I did was under the 4 corners of the bow right here. And right here. I just put a little tiny knot with the thread and then tied it to the shirt right there. And then also in the middle too. Something simple, it will hold. I've attached bows like this before. And yeah, I cannot wait to see how yours came out. Please tag me, I would love to see it. And then here is the front, nice and simple. And then you turn it to the back and bam, the bow. Love. Can't wait to see what you guys create.